Beyond the Build is a golf podcast, first and foremost. It's about golf, it's about equipment, it's about the industry and the people behind the game. Hosted by two former club fitters, the show explores how clubs are built, how brands think, and how golf culture actually works. Listen for honest conversation, industry context, and stories you don't usually hear. No hype, no hot takes, just thoughtful discussion from inside the game. This is Beyond the Build. All right. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Beyond the Build Golf Podcast. My name is Tony. I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, Steve, and we want to welcome you all to the first episode, our pilot, if you will, and just getting to know how to do one of these podcast things. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be joined by a good friend. I could even maybe call him a mentor at times. But definitely a staple in the golf industry, Steve Harrow. I want to introduce or give you the chance to introduce yourself. So why don't you let the world out there know who you are and you know what we're doing here today.
You are too kind, my man. So a mentor. Wow, that's like a title that people get that are really important. That's wow. Okay. So about me, let's see. So I have been in the golf industry for, wow, at this point we're coming up on.
We got to do the math. Yeah, you got to do the math.
I mean, I need an abacus. We're at like 22 years now, 23 years now. Have been on the equipment side. I have been a fitter. I was a fitter for almost all of that time. Through various OEMs and through a specialty fitting boutique. I don't even know if we could start saying names yet. And, have had the opportunity to do some really cool things in the business of golf where it's not your everyday access. It's not the, I read some stuff, or I've gone I'm on another chat room and I've gotten to go on a trip. Now I've actually been behind the curtain and seen a lot of really cool things. Now currently work for a footwear and apparel company in the business, and now I'm seeing an even different side of the business, which is really cool, and being able to bring all of my experience from just life in general to that to a very a very up and coming, soaring, advancing kind of company like I'm with now is very fun. Why we're doing this podcast is simply kind of how you've already put it. Like there's way more people that are like us we're not just equipment junkies. We're not just, course raiders. We're here because there's a lot of that goes on in golf and around golf that I don't think gets enough shine, that I don't think people fully understand. And I think that there's, anytime that there's an outlet or there's more people out there that think like us than we realize. So I think we are for those folks. This is the fun part. Right. This is being able to get to talk about all the things that you want to talk about. This is getting to talk about all the things that you think you've heard about. And, at the end of it, hopefully getting whoever's listening to this to think about things a little bit differently. We take feedback. I mean, this is not us just
comments below.
Comments below, man. Listen, this is a pilot. Like if you expected Gone with the Wind, you ain't getting it. But we're gonna try to do our best, and we're gonna grow. And whoever wants to grow with us would be dope.
That's and it's inspiring is the word that comes to mind, because for what it's worth, I'll get into my background in a minute. It's hard to just launch a podcast by yourself. When you feel like you're in a vacuum or you feel like you're talking to yourself. I'm really excited to have a co-host and be able to play ping pong or, rap back and forth, as Steve and I used to say back in the shop. And it to me gives us an opportunity to stay connected and reconnect on old nostalgia, but also give our insights into where the game is going. And I think I'm not alone here that think that golf has changed a ton, not just in the last 20 years, but I'm talking in the last two, where we're just seeing this skyrocket of influence and culture and challenging thoughts against the status quo in golf is how I would start. So I just appreciate you being here, Steve, for what it's worth. This was Steve's idea, and he's been bugging me for the better part of a year to get something like this going. So, better late than never is how I'll start it.
Best time to plant a tree was yesterday. Might as well start now.
Yeah, might as well start now. So, yeah, let's get into my background a bit. First of all, I met Steve on, let's say, probably a cold spring day inside of an indoor fitting studio. It was my first day, and he gave me a project on how to pull some graphite shafts out of a set of irons. Sure enough, I've never done that at the time. So he proceeded to teach me, but also give me a good life lesson. Like, dude, don't just start ripping stuff apart without really knowing what you're doing. Yeah, I'm a golfer first. I was a former fitter for a big OEM company and a private golf studio. But even before that, I've worked in golf retail. I mean, that was my first job when I was 16. So we're talking 20-ish years ago. I was a good old cashier and gripper at Golfsmith, which I'm sure you guys might remember. But if not, that might just be dating myself back then. But I'm from the South Jersey, Philadelphia area. I went to school not for golf. Golf was more of a passion, but I ended up working in the golf industry because I loved it that much. I've played mediocre golf most of my life. I've been around a 10-ish handicap. I just can't seem to break through, and that's okay with me. I would say that I'm happy with my golf game. I'm happy with my relationship with the game now being outside of the fitting bay. And I don't know if that can resonate with others that are listening to this, or if it even resonates with Steve, but I was starting to lose a bit of my why behind why I liked golf so much, what got me into the equipment to begin with. And it wasn't the equipment, it wasn't the data, it was the people and the ability to communicate and, share some good energy and good golf vibes with good people. So that's what I hope to get out of this podcast, is reconnect with those types of folks and reconnect myself with the game that I love so much, that I've, been around since I was a kid. And looking for a platform to just share our stories and share more about the golf industry, but beyond the equipment and the data, back to the human side of golf, back to culture and, why brands do what they do, why products resonate with certain folks. So I'm excited to just combine both of our expertise, Steve, because I think we both bring different experience, different perspectives, and hopefully it resonates with our listeners here.
I mean, it's so funny you brought up Golfsmith, because to be honest, I think you and I crossed paths at that same Golfsmith.
Oh, that's right.
And that was kind of my reintroduction back into golf, was actually working there, because I had taken a huge layoff from golf, right? You mentioned, like, we're golfers first. Yes, we're golfers first. And here's the beauty of the two of us. You're like kind of at peace with where your golf game is, and I am still grinding, right? Even though I am not on the equipment side anymore, I am still chasing that rabbit down that rabbit hole and testing things and what's going to be best. And do I have a bag now that I love? Absolutely, I do. I also have a second and a third, just in case the first one doesn't act right. I have cut it down to 2 putters. Like, let's, for a time there, I think at one point I had 10. So
it becomes part of a kind of a rite of passage. When you work in the industry, you're exposed to equipment, you're exposed to gear, and before you know it, you do end up building a second and third bag with samples, or maybe you won a contest and you were gifted a set of irons. I mean, those things happen when you work in the golf industry. I would list that in the perks column, what we get out of that beyond just the paycheck, right?
Okay.
I think
it also comes with the relationship side of it, right? You're not just now friends with your local sales rep or your regional manager that handles that particular company. Now all of a sudden you get to meet the guys that do it every week out on the tour, and you get to befriend them, and now you're, on visual and name basis that you can drop them a text. Like, not a lot of people get that access, and they're the guys you see on Insta, and they're the guys you see that are taking care of tour player X's stuff every week, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh hey, it's Wade.
Wade from TaylorMade, right?
Got to hang out with Wade last year at an event, and it was just like catching up with a friend. It wasn't like we hung out for like 45 minutes.
Would you say that there's kind of this unspoken language between someone like who's on the tour every single week, like, driving the tour truck, and the fitter who works at the same studio every single day? They speak the same language at times to their players, even though the one player is a professional and the other player is, an amateur. Do you think because of that shared language, it's easy to just, chop it up with a guy like Wade or someone else on the tour?
It is. And the cool thing is that a lot of the guys that are out on tour are so connected to people like fitters, and the language, and yes, the language is the same, but it's interesting how many times I sit down with those guys and they're asking the questions of the fitters.
Yeah.
What are you guys seeing out there? Hey, they're giving us a little bit more insight into kind of how things got designed, so that the same thing that you see out on tour is the same thing that's going into a studio. And, what are you seeing that's working well? What are you seeing that's not working well? What would you think if we did this? And, to be able to have that kind of, conversation with someone who's working with the best players on the planet,
yeah,
like, he can take that back to his bosses and everybody else and go, hey man, I was talking to a really good buddy of mine, and this is what he told me that he's seeing out there. And, is that going to make Pick a Brand change what they're doing altogether? No, but you know what? It's more insight than they have. And every little bit can kind of drive maybe a tweak here, or like maybe we need to go away from this and go back to this, because they're seeing numbers. They're getting now actual feedback from people. So believe it or not, the brands do care.
Mm-hmm.
They do care about that kind of stuff. But it's, it's insane. Like, some of the stories are just insane to be able to think about the conversations that I've had with those guys.
I can't think of another industry, or sport for that matter, where somebody on the retail side, meaning, like, let's just say club fitters, right? Or even OEM club fitters that are doing demo days, and the professional side of what they do, the same, the same position, right? We're talking about fitting golf equipment. This is a black and white binary type of job where our goal is to get the best performance out of equipment for our player. But can you find another sport where, the fitters of the amateur level and the pros can actually just sit and have a conversation for 15 minutes about the same topic and feel like they've known each other for years? I can't think of one.
No, there's not, because golf is a much more consumable sport, right? It's every other sport that you can think of. You probably need more than one person to play it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an individual sport. I don't know about you, but I've never walked into a basketball store.
Right.
I've walked into a tennis store. Right. I've walked into, there are shops that are driven by individual sports, but to get so detailed, because it's one person, it's 18 holes, there's so many things that make golf so unique in the sports realm. It's not just your clubs, it's your bag.
Yeah. It's your whole
It's
kit.
the ball you play. It's what height tees you like.
Mm-hmm.
There's
a lot of personality.
It's so individual, and it's so specialized that way. It's what you like to wear, right? Your expression. It's the shoe you wear. Why do you wear that shoe?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you like a certain kind of golf sock? We all have one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, it's that sickening. So, like, there's not an NBA player out there that's like, going to be able to go out and do they sell shoes? Yeah, they can sell shoes, but no one's going to get fit for a NBA player's shoe. They're just going to go buy it
Yeah,
because
we can't
it's a
just walk
shoe.
we can't just walk onto an NBA court either and start, shooting
Correct.
threes. And that's the other
Correct.
cool thing about it is the professionals and the amateurs are playing the same game. They're on the
Same
same
ballpark.
they're in the same ballpark. Their goal is the same. Is
Yep.
the skill level different? Sure, but maybe that's I love the idea of pro-ams for that. Right now LPGA is doing a pro-am to open their season basically throughout the entire week where the pro is playing with some guests and they're still performing. That doesn't affect their ability to score, the professionals. So
They're still trying to win.
yeah, like they're still locked in and they have that performance mindset. So I think that's what makes golf so unique is the mixing and the fusion of the amateur and the professional together in the same ballpark with the same goals, sometimes even the same equipment. And we'll get into equipment plenty in this show. I mean, I think that's one thing that like kind of a core pillar topic we'll go through is equipment. But you said about, what shoe do you like to wear? What sock do you like to wear? And part of that is, marketing, it's brand, it's, our ability to connect with a brand theme or a story. And I think that golf is so full of different types of brand identities that it can basically fit for anybody. Everybody should feel included in golf nowadays. When, maybe 20 years ago, that wasn't the case.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple words that people should associate with the game of golf and with who they are as a golfer. Inclusivity for sure. I'm going to use authenticity. If you're a golfer, just be who you are. I see guys that on the golf course they're one way and then the round's over and then all of a sudden like the veil gets lifted and I'm like, why weren't you just that guy for the last 4.5 hours? Like, it's golf.
Yeah.
We're not going to go out and spend that kind of time out on the golf course and you're going to be person A and then all of a sudden like the round's over and you completely code switch. Like, dude, just it's golf.
Yeah. It's
No one's going to die today. It's just golf.
There's no cameras, as something I like to say on when we play is just like, look, have fun out there. You're in a moment of recreation. You're in a moment of trying to enjoy yourself. We are not professionals. We're not paid to play. It's the opposite. So I believe that, I mean, I'll speak from experience. I used to be in that boat. I used to snap into, hey, I have my golf pockets. I have my golf mind on. And then as soon as the round was over, I'd go into kind of my goofy self. When, actually, honestly, Steve, when I started playing golf with you, I started to get loose a little bit and be able to just, relax. And I think that comes from being yourself on the golf course and, understanding that it's not just about, I mean, it is for some just posting the lowest score, but for some, it's about the feeling of a well-struck shot. If you can hit an 8-iron completely flush and take a dollar bill sized divot and it goes flying 10, 12 yards to the upper left, you know that you've accomplished your goal that day. At least that's how I look at playing golf sometimes.
It's also, dare I say, it's also the vibe, right? It's also who you play with. So it's absolutely who you play with that can make or break your day.
Yeah.
So there's the first tee conversation that you're having with people, and you're like, "Hey guys, like, let's have a day. Let's not."
Some of the most memorable rounds I've had are with strangers that are very open on the first tee, and they want to learn more about you in a positive way, but also not in a distracting way. From, hey, we're all out here, we're playing our own game, but in between shots, like, let's stay loose, let's stay human. And that's a piece of golf I have come to really enjoy, is playing with strangers and getting to know their background and why they enjoy the game. So
It's a very underrated thing that again separates golf from everything else. It's really you against the golf course and with three other people. And if they're strangers or friends or,
Hmm.
they could be CEOs of a company or they could be the janitor. It doesn't matter. We're on a
Everybody's
golf
even.
course playing the
Yeah.
same golf
Say
course.
everybody's the same there, and that's kind of the other cool thing about the game, right? I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. That was a nice little chat we had, and honestly, we have a list of ideas that we're going to talk through, and we just skipped over about 2 sections of them for a nice organic convo about why is it that we play? Why is it that we enjoy certain pieces of the game? What are those pieces? I just started to get some ideas and excitement about hearing that from guests that we bring on the show and hearing their point of view or what makes them excited to get on a golf course. So I just want to shift gears to basically, now that we're outside of the bay, right? You and I worked on the golf equipment side so heavily. I mean, a day like today, we'd be regripping 30 clubs and maybe building a set or two, maybe getting a set prepped to be built tomorrow. And that's hard work. I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. That was probably the hardest part of the job, was getting a lot of stuff through the assembly line. And that kind of sucked the soul of golf out for me, at least at a certain point. Maybe, Steve, you could remember that point when you just noticed my head hanging a little lower.
Yeah.
And I made the decision to step out of the industry after working in it for so long. But you made kind of a lateral move in some sense, from the fitting bay to now on the soft goods side, working back with footwear and apparel. You were just at the PGA show a couple weeks. Give us kind of a 30-second, or I should say 30,000-foot view of what the golf industry felt like. What was it like at your first PGA show? And what are you excited about this year after going to see that this past couple weeks?
There's no chance I do that in 30 seconds, but I'm going to try. It being my first show, which is also mind blowing for as long as I've been in the business, mostly because I would be too busy to
Yes.
be able to go to the show. But for me to be able to go to the show for the first time, the only way that I have described it to folks is that it was a hornet's nest. It's a massive building. It is, there's no way that you saw, if you tell me somebody saw everything that was there, they're lying. You're essentially there for 2.5 days, right? Outside of demo day, which is separate. But to be able to walk around and see the number of things that are included in the PGA show now that 10 years ago, none of that stuff would have been there. There were pickleball courts. Like, there were 15 places that did ball markers.
It was like golf and golf adjacent.
It's because it's becoming like a lifestyle show. And the other part of it is, and I'm going to say this as tongue in cheek as possible, the PGA show is exactly what it was supposed to be. It used to be all the higher ups in the PGA and all of the different sections would all come to meet, and they would all congregate in Orlando, and they would have meetings and breakout meetings and all that. And now it was probably 2/3 PGA professionals and golf industry professionals, and the other third were all content creators and influencers.
Wow.
And I've had the opportunity to speak to a handful of them while at the show and now post show, and kind of gotten their feedback from it. And obviously, what are they going to say? They're going to say, "Oh, it was a great opportunity. It was really cool. I got to be out there. People got to see me." And that's their goal, was to be seen and to go to their brands that they're affiliated with, and give them FaceTime for all the people that would come in.
Right.
And that's cool. I did miss going to demo day, and mostly because we had to set up our booth. And I definitely want to experience that next year. But it was a crazy experience that I cannot wait to go back next year. Now, knowing what to expect, now I have a plan that I can put together, and I can go, okay, so here's how long this should take. This is this. I'm going to come in a couple days earlier. I'm going to hang out with some of my other industry guys. We'll be able to plan differently. But I mean, this was a straight business trip that
Drinking from a fire hose.
turned into a social meeting. Really.
That's really interesting. And I'm kind of earlier, I talked about how golf has changed just in the recent, let's say 3 years. And the content wave that has come with post COVID golf is, I mean, I don't have data in front of me, but it just feels like there's a lot more people making YouTube content and podcasts and blog articles from their own perspective. Yes, it's gotten a lot easier to do those types of things. I mean, I'm not a professional podcaster. Steve, I know you're not either. And I think we're doing pretty well, putting this together on a whim. But that being said, I would argue that some of the content out there is positioned from a way of getting more attention and doing that for numbers, not actually for the value of the golf game. And
Oh, 100%.
and I think that's what motivated me to do this podcast with you is we come from that authentic, you stealing your word, from that authentic position. We've been in the industry. We've fitted professionals and amateurs till our hands were filled with blisters and scraps of metal. And that type of experience, I think, is different than, let's just say, the majority of content creators out there. And not to throw shade, I want to add our voice to those types of arenas because I do believe there are other people out there listening that can resonate with what we're trying to say. So anyway, PGA show, little history. I went there as media in 2020 before the world shut down. We're talking January 2020. And I went with my cousin and he helped with video production. We interviewed about 10 different brands over the course of 2 days. And I would say that it felt like a hornet's nest then, Steve. I mean, shoulder to shoulder. If you wanted to get into a booth to talk to somebody, good luck, unless you had an appointment or if you were somebody that had some influence. But it's extremely cool to see all of that stuff in one giant room. And I think that's what makes it successful is, giving a space for that and just welcoming as many people as they can. So I'm excited to hear more about it. We'll probably do a show that's just dedicated to PGA show. And, is it valuable to go if you're a up and coming media team or if you're, obviously a rep or someone that's been in the industry and now working for a new brand? I think it's a staple of the year. It kind of marks the opening of the golf season. It's when a lot of new product gets announced, and we're starting to see those roll out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that stuff's all, and it's funny. Like speaking of that, like the golf gods of all the equipment companies have all kind of figured out. Um, the golf industry's all kind of figured out that the earlier that you can release stuff, the better chance you have of getting in front of more people and
Right.
creating more buzz. Like it used to be, everything used to release in April, right
Mm-hmm.
around the Masters.
Masters.
Masters used to be the official opening of the golf season
Yeah.
for everything, right? For not only just golf, but for the equipment. And now it's like, nope, we're bringing stuff out in November
Yeah. That's so,
when half the country's in the cold.
and some OEMs are different, and that was something I remember explaining to customers. Like, look, Titleist is every 2 years. They're in the fall for their driver. It's their recipe. TaylorMade, you can see a new driver model every January. It launches in February every single year. And I was thinking about this before we hopped on. I'm like, why is the golf industry or the golf product similar to the car industry, where every year there's this obligation to put out a new version or an updated model, and some brands do it more than others, and we can get into that in another show. But that's going to be I want to kind of close with that thought and maybe hear your perspective of, is it good? Is it bad? Is it indifferent that we just see these short cycles of very expensive product that then depreciate very quickly in the next year or two? To somewhere, some people might argue that you get these unicorn models, you get these certain models that come out in certain years that just, they have more they have more weight and nostalgia after a certain time. And, I'm going to pick on Brooks Koepka, for example. He's got a Nike 3-iron in his bag that he's had forever. And sometimes those older clubs can still outperform, but they can also bring a lot extra vibes to the golf kit. So do you want to maybe give me your perspective on that, Steve?
I actually agree with that 1,000%. And I mean, that even goes down to, not professionals where, I've worked with a lot of really good amateur players that still have clubs in their bag that are 10 years old. And it's well, first off, for them and for the tour player, it's a confidence inspirer, right?
Right.
You know what that club's going to do. There's no reason to change it. If it's working, don't touch it. But the other side is, when you see all this new stuff coming out, again, it's a consumer business, right? So the why they do it is because maybe somebody who didn't buy last year's model is going to buy this one, or this one's 17 yards longer, or so and so plays it, so you should too. And there is a lid for every pot. There's a buyer. There's always going to be a buyer. But I mean, I used to preach in the fitting bay, like, I want to put you into stuff that you're going to keep for 10 years. You don't need to change things once you're fit for something. Like, all that's going to happen is you're going to become accustomed to what actually fits you, and you're going to be able to just go out and play golf and not have something else to blame.
Yeah. That peace of mind and trust in your equipment is it's worth a lot. I don't think you can put a dollar amount on it, but I think you and I agree that performance can be bought to an extent, but there is a point of diminishing return after someone is well fitted. What I mean by that is, if I'm fitted for like you fit me for a driver shaft last year before you shifted into to working with True, and I am so confident that shaft will be in my bag for 10 years that I'm not looking at a whole new club. I might explore a new head because of curiosity and because of marketing telling me that this new club is better or a new advancement in tech. But deep down, I know that it's not going to make the ball go any straighter or any further. What makes the ball go straighter and further is me putting a good swing on the club. And to me, that was a peace of mind that I needed with my drivers, that it's not the equipment, it's me. And I think people that listen to this hopefully can agree that, well, a certain club isn't going to make the ball go perfectly straight every time. It will give me a better chance of hitting a good golf shot. And I think that's what custom fitting meant to me, and what I always tried to position when we were in the fitting bay, and be very clear that, look, these are no magic bullets. Just because it says it's going to draw does not mean it's going to draw. And that authentic side and the honesty side behind the gear for you and I was, I think, what made us gel really well in the fitting bay. Basically, you and I had two bays, or I should say a bay each, that we would have fittings going on simultaneously, and I'd eavesdrop on yours, and you've eavesdrops on mine. And sometimes we just hear a good shot, and then I'd hear commentary from the other side like, oh, that's a good one. We wouldn't have to see the data. And, I think that was fun, right? That was the fun side behind the fitting and the human side behind the fitting. So anyway, that was a good little chat we just had. I mean, we're at 34-ish minutes, and wow. I feel like we just talked about, like, you and I were just on the phone for 30 minutes, which is very common. You and I just kind of end up chatting about whatever. But why don't we wrap up today and save some more, good bits for the next few episodes. We're going to probably do this weekly is the goal, and then maybe come on maybe midweek one night if there's a special news or event drop. I don't want to overcommit. I just want to get consistent, and I think you would agree.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But anyway, I'm excited, and I think the theme here is, like, we're both genuinely curious. We're honest. And I think you and I have had plenty of talks about equipment and gear and the game, that this should hopefully resonate with a few of our listeners out there.
I think that there's a lot of people out there that don't realize that there's more people like them, right? That there's more people that maybe want to know about that side of it, that there's really no other outlet outside of, like, going to some of the big names that maybe are aligned a different way. And I mean, we just don't have the restriction. We're just gonna talk about stuff, and we're gonna give our opinions, and they're opinions based on a lot of fact and a lot of stories and a lot of years doing this.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you can't just find in a book or in one single article. Our listeners are probably going to be just like us, guys who are working in the fitting bay every day. Maybe it's people that are interested in working in the golf industry, and they just kind of want to see behind the veil, like you said earlier on. kind of see what's behind the scenes. And that's kind of where our title came in. Beyond the Build is, let's take one things past the fitting bay, but it's also metaphorically speaking, like you and I don't build clubs as much as we used to anymore. And that was a decision that we both made. I mean, for me, it was to bring back the love of the game for me. And, I'm going to probably reference a lot of different books that I've been reading and different, stories that I've heard. But right on my desk here, I have this was a gift from my father for Christmas. So I'm just going to kind of do a little drop here. My late great grandfather was a big golfer up until, into his 70s. He won club championship with a low gross, I think when he was 6, he shot his age a couple times, but he was the reason I learned how to hold a golf club, how to hit out of a bunker. And I can remember, young age getting excited about being on the last hole of the golf course and what that meant metaphorically. I have his hole-in-one ball. It's an old Wilson Pro Staff. I mean, we're talking pre-Pro V1 era. I don't know how old this ball is, but I remember looking at it as a kid, and now I look at it every day, and it really motivates me to just keep the stories coming and keep sharing my perspective about golf and making sure it doesn't get lost in the in this new wave of golf culture that we're seeing. So I know I ranted a little bit, Steve. Anything you want to say to close it out for the week before we just do a quick wrap?
No, this is exciting. This is something that I personally have wanted to explore for a while, and to be able to have an outlet like this, I think is super special. And I look forward to, again, getting the feedback from the people that actually give us a listen, and even hear from them. Like, what do you want to hear about?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're here to share our stories and our perspectives, and we have them. Right. So
right.
Don't be afraid to ask for something, even if it's a weird thing. Like, you might think it's weird. It might be right up our alley. So
maybe we have a section in future shows where it's like ask the audience and Q&A. Mm-hmm. And, these questions can be, hey, Steve and Tony, I have a 92 mile an hour swing speed. I swing 10 degrees out to in, how do I get rid of my slice? And, we'll give you the honest feedback for that. Questions could be, what's it like to build a golf set? What does it take to be on the golf tour? We're happy to chat about all those things. Let's just be clear. We're not PGA professionals. We're not instructors. We're not here to sell you something. We're just here to give you a little bit of insight and a little bit of value and a break from a lot of the other noise that's out there in the golf space. So, Steve, I want to thank you, brother, for giving me a chance of being a co-host with you. I think we'll have a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Oh, this was a blast. I can't wait for episode 2.
Great. Well, thank you all for listening. Tune in, hit subscribe, give us your feedback, and we'll be sure to see you guys on the next one. Thanks for listening, and we got to think of a good sign off. I don't have anything coming to mind yet, but something cheesy, something corny, but also authentic. We'll get back to you guys on that. But thank you, Steve. Appreciate you, and everyone else listening, have a great week.
Thanks, everybody.